What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Mock Draft Guy YouTube channel. The NFL draft for 2024 has come and gone. It is officially closed. So you are now watching this video as soon as the NFL draft is over. And I figured that I would do a top 10 reaches in the 2024 NFL draft. I also did a top 10 steals as well. And these two videos were uploaded at the same exact time. So if you're interested in this video, as soon as this one's done, you can go over to that one as well. I uploaded them at the same time to save you guys any trouble of waiting if you were interested. But yeah, I mean, there were a lot of surprises in the 2024 NFL draft. So let me just clarify before we get into this what I determine as a reach. I feel like a reach is one of a few things for me. A reach could be a player that's taken well before his draft projection, could also be taking a player that you don't necessarily need where there's an area of strength already on the roster that they didn't necessarily need, or a head scratcher. So something like that. That's usually what I categorize a reach as. So I think we should just hop into it right now. We have 10. The 10 is in no specific order. So, if you see, well, I mean, obviously these two will be in the video here, Michael Penix and Bo Nix. So if you see Michael Penix at number 1 and then Bo Nix at 10, there's no ranking. It's just 10. There's no specific order. So let's get into it. Number 1, I just mentioned him. It's Michael Penix Jr. And this is coming from one of the biggest Michael Penix Jr. fans out there. Loved his game for the last couple seasons as well. I thought he's a fantastic player. I think he'll be a fantastic player in the NFL as well. I just think that this pick really doesn't make much sense from the Atlanta Falcons standpoint. And listen, Falcons fans, you could justify it any way that you want. You could say, oh, there's no real plan past this year with Kirk Cousins, all that kind of stuff. You got him under a ridiculous contract for 3 years at the very most. So Penix is going to sit for 3 years. He's going to be your backup for 3 years. He's going to be 27 years old by the time he takes a starting spot. I mean, it's not too crazy to think, but the number 7 overall pick, if they traded back, this is the thing. If the Atlanta Falcons, I'm sorry, number 8 overall pick, if the Falcons traded back 10, 12 spots and took Michael Penix there, I still think it would be a head-scratching pick, but I would understand it a little bit more. When you're taking a quarterback at number 8 overall, that seems to be your franchise guy. So if they signed Kirk Cousins to a 1-year, $25 million deal, I'd say, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. But you paid him $180 million to be your quarterback, and you just drafted someone with a premium top 10 pick that's not going to play. I don't really get it. I love the player. I don't understand the pick at all. I don't understand the destination. Honestly, if it was any other pick, if it was any other team at number 8 that needed a quarterback, I'd say that was a good pick. I wouldn't even bat an eye. But the Atlanta Falcons, after paying Kirk Cousins all the money that they did, to turn around and spend a top 10 pick on a quarterback with an injury history, with a little bit of schematic trouble projection at the NFL level, I don't necessarily get it. But I do love Michael Penix Jr., and I hope it works out. But I just don't think that this pick makes really that much sense. Number 2, you have Mason Smith here. Now, again, another player that I think over time will project well to the NFL. He'll be a good player for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think round 2 was the spot for him here. I think the Jaguars are banking off of his athletic ability and his natural strength and the flashes that he showed as a freshman, but we haven't seen those flashes since then. So I'm not really entirely in love with this pick. I don't hate it. I do think it is a reach, though. If I could have saw Mason Smith there at some point in the 3rd round, maybe even at pick 96 where the Jaguars had another pick. But the Jaguars had a fine draft for the most part. This pick isn't a head scratcher. I just think that there were better defensive tackles available at the time that maybe fit the Jacksonville Jaguars defense a little bit better. But you can't argue with the physical intangibles that Mason Smith has. It's just a matter of if he puts it all together on a consistent basis. Hopefully, with pro level coaching, he can. I just think that there were more pro ready players at number 48 that you could have taken over Mason Smith here. But it is a position of need, and I do understand it, but I question it a little bit here. I think it's definitely a bit of a reach. A top 50 pick on Mason Smith, I think it's a reach. I have Tyron Hopper here for the Green Bay Packers. Don't get me wrong. I think pairing Quay Walker with Edgerrin Cooper and Tyron Hopper is awesome. If you don't ask Tyron Hopper to cover, I think this would have been a great selection. I shouldn't really say this, but I guess I will anyway. The Green Bay Packers always make very strange picks in these middle rounds here that we often question, but they somehow always sort of kind of work out. So this is probably going to wind up being an amazing pick in the next couple of years. And I'm going to look like a complete and total ass, which I usually do on a regular basis anyway, but that's completely fine and not the point. But Hopper is someone that I feel like is just not as athletically inclined as an Edgerrin Cooper or a Quay Walker. He offers more of the run stopping, run plugging, I guess you would say, out of the three linebackers, whereas his coverage ability, I believe he had a 39.6 coverage grade last year, or I think that was his total career grade. I think it was a 50 last year. Just not a coverage guy. I don't know what exactly his role will be in this defense. If this was a fourth or fifth round pick, where I think he honestly could have been, Jalen Ford went a little bit later on, and I feel like Ford would have been a little bit of a better fit for the Green Bay Packers. But Hopper is a really good player, and if that's your third linebacker out of the three, then I think you got a really, really great young core of linebackers. But I think this could have been a pick that could have waited to the fourth, maybe even the fifth round. Isaiah Adams here, who looks a little bit cross-eyed in this picture. So maybe I should have I should have used another picture. Isaiah Adams. I love the idea from the Arizona Cardinals. The third round for Isaiah Adams for me seems a little too rich, to be honest with you. I love the versatility. I'll be honest with you, when I made this top 10 as the draft was going on, I put Isaiah Adams down as one of the picks that I thought was a I shouldn't say big time reach, a reach at the time. I hate it a little bit less watching the draft go on, but I just think that this is one out of two picks for the Arizona Cardinals that kind of stands out as a little bit questionable. I'm not questioning his ability to be a good football player. I just think that there were better players on the board at the time at a position of need than Adams. But Adams does bring some nice versatility to the offensive line. If they're going to invest in Kyler Murray and bring in all these weapons and these offensive linemen, then you might as well get the most versatile guys out there. But to me, I just think that there were better options on the board for what they're looking for. But who knows? He could start right away at one of those guard positions. So I could wind up eating my words. I personally just think that there were better players on the board at the time in the third round. This is a pick, fourth round, late fourth round, something like that, I think would be great. In the third round at the time, I was not a fan of that pick. AJ Barner for the Seattle Seahawks here. Love AJ Barner's athletic ability, but in a very, very crowded tight end room, I don't really understand it. Really good athlete. Thought maybe they could have used that pick on another pass catcher instead of AJ Barner. It's just a total mix of tight ends. I know that Kobe Parkinson did leave, so that opens up a little bit of playing time for AJ Barner, but it's still a relatively crowded tight end room there in Seattle. And tight end has never really been a featured option for Seattle. I mean, look at Noah Fant, who was someone that was a big part of the Russell Wilson trade from Denver to Seattle. And he hasn't really, been too much in Seattle at this point. More of like a fourth or fifth option in the passing game. So he's obviously going to be probably the tight end one. Then you have AJ Barner. So what exactly does that leave him with? So maybe a developmental guy, but fourth round for AJ Barner, somewhere I thought could have went in the sixth or seventh round, to be honest with you. But I think the Seattle Seahawks are banking on the athleticism that he does bring to the table. And just to be clear with you guys, I'm not knocking these players. I'm questioning the organization and what they were thinking with the current pick, with the players on the board. So I think with some of the tight ends that were on the board at the time, I believe Jared Wiley was on the board. I know Dallin Holker was on the board. Some of these other awesome players were on the board at the tight end position that might offer a little bit more than AJ Barner. I just sort of kind of question the pick in the fourth round. Bo Nix. All right. So I love the fit. I don't think that this was a bad pick. I think this was a contingency plan, to be honest with you. I think that the Denver Broncos sold it as, oh, we wanted to pretend to trade up to drive the price up. Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Maybe to deter everyone away from Bo Nix so they really got their number one guy. I think Nix, I've said it before, I think Nix has the most Drew Brees qualities in the draft class. I know that might be crazy to say, but his short to intermediate is exactly the type of offense that Sean Payton likes to run. Those, quick hitters, those 10 to 15 yard passes over the middle. out routes, all that kind of stuff. That's Bo Nix does excel in that area as well, and he's comfortable outside the pocket. I just think they could have got him a little bit later. I'm not going to say second or third round, but if the Denver Broncos wanted to truly invest in the rebuild and build this roster down from the ground up, I could have easily seen them moving back at least 8 or 10 spots and Bo Nix still being there. I think they did panic at the time. You could argue in the comment section, I'm sure that you will, that, well, if your guy is there and you have that pick, you might as well go and get him. I just think that if you're going to fully invest in this rebuild and you're going to retool your offense around your quarterback, Bo Nix isn't getting any younger. He's still a younger-ish quarterback, 23, probably going to be 24 at the time of his rookie season. But if you really want to retool this roster around him, I would say trade down and get a little bit more assets, because I didn't expect him to go at number 12. Number 12, right? No, yeah, it was number 12 he went, because it was J.J. McCarthy went at 10, then the Jets took Olu Fashanu, and then Bo Nix went right after that. 6 quarterbacks in the top 12. I think that they would have been comfortable trading back if there was another quarterback on the board at the time. But since Bo Nix was the last of the top 6 quarterbacks, and then we didn't see another quarterback go until 150, so that's got to be some kind of record. 138 picks between quarterback picks has got to be some kind of record. But I think Bo Nix is a good player, and I think he fits Sean Payton well. I just think that if they truly wanted to immerse themselves in a full-time rebuild, they could have traded back, acquired more assets, then got their guy like Bo Nix. Okay, Giovanni Manu is, I'll be honest with you guys, I get it. I understand. 6'8", 350 pounds. He wears it extremely well. I don't really get it at the time. The Detroit Lions, to me, had a very, very interesting draft. And Detroit fans could try and argue this all they want. That's completely fine. This is just how I feel on it. 6'8", 350, I guess he's your future. It's a low risk, high reward type of pick. But with all the other holes on the roster that they had at the time of this pick, you look at the first 2 picks that they made were Terrion Arnold and then Ennis Rakestraw. I think going cornerback is really weird. You don't see teams go back-to-back picks like that in the first and second round too often. But when you get Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw Jr., you absolutely go for it. I love those 2 picks. Then after that, I'm pretty sure Giovanni Manu was the next pick after that. So a little bit puzzling there, in my opinion. I think that they were less developmental players on the board. This is someone that I didn't even do any scouting on through the pre-draft process. To be quite honest with you, I didn't think I had to worry about it. I thought he was going to be an undrafted free agent. I kind of thought a couple things after his pro day where he lit it up, and then he was 6'8", 350 pounds and moved the way that he did. I mean, look at that body. He wears 350 pounds very, very well. And he's tremendously strong, and Samoans are just built different sometimes. That's just the way that it works in in the NFL. But I just question the pick a little bit, because coming from the University of British Columbia, you're coming from Canadian football essentially to the NFL. It's going to take a long time. I don't know if this pick will bear any fruit for the Detroit Lions. That's what I'm saying. And I believe that they traded up with the Jets to get him. So that was their first pick after taking 2 cornerbacks when edge was still a big time need. Interior offensive line, to me, was a bigger need than tackle. I just think that this was, I wouldn't say a massive reach. It was definitely a reach. So to trade up to get someone that was probably going to be there at the time that you had your regular pick is a little bit of a reach for me. Delmar Glaze. Now, I personally am a fan of this pick for the Raiders, because you already have Jackson Powers-Johnson, who I assume is going to start at right guard in the NFL. Because I believe Andre James signed an extension, so they're going to keep him at center. Jackson Powers-Johnson at right guard. I automatically think Delmar Glaze plays right tackle. He offers a ton of versatility all along the offensive line, right tackle, right guard, center, wherever you want him to play, he could play. He truly does offer 5 positional versatility. The thing with me, 3rd round here for Delmar Glaze, I loved it personally as a fan of him, but I know that Raiders fans really were not a fan of it. But I'm here to say that, yes, it is a reach, but to shed more light on the fact that he is a good player, and you probably could have gotten a more right tackle focused player at the spot. But this guy offers a lot of versatility at the same time, and that right side of your offensive line is really young, really hungry, really strong, really fast, if he is presumably playing right tackle. But Glaze is someone that I liked throughout the pre-draft process that I thought could have gone in the third round. I was thinking more fourth, fifth. I don't know. With all the picks that the Raiders had in the fourth round, I thought that he definitely could have been a fourth round pick for them. Third round, a little bit too rich for my blood. Day 2 for Delmar Glaze. Okay, Rook Aurora. I have had a mental block with this guy's name throughout the entire draft process. I've watched tape. I've listened to commentators say his name. I listened to KAndre Rooks say his name. Even the best of the best can barely get his name right. So don't come after me for not being able to say it. We'll just call him Rook. I I think it's a good idea from the Atlanta Falcons. He's a super strong, odd front, versatile type of player at his size, super athletic as well. I just think there were so many better defensive tackles on the board. I mean, they passed up on, it depends what they're looking for, but they passed up on Johnny Newton, who I thought would have been an amazing fit in Atlanta. They passed up on Chris Jenkins as well. Some of these other guys that went a little bit right after Rook, and they traded up for him as well. I think that they didn't even have to trade up for him. So I think that Rook went in the round that he was supposed to go. I think it was a little bit of a reach taking him before guys like Johnny Newton, guys like Chris Jenkins, who I think are going to project better to the NFL level. Not to knock Rook. I think that he's going to be a fine player as well. And they also added Brendan Dorless and Braylon Trice. They really, really bolstered their defensive line. Credit to them. They came in here with a plan to bolster the defensive line, and they absolutely did. And they got 3 stud players to do so. I just think trading up for Rook in the second round to trade up to where they did was a little bit unnecessary. I think you could have stayed where you were and got someone like Chris Jenkins, someone like Jerzon Newton. You didn't have to give up assets to get Rook. Okay, Tip Ryman is the last guy on my list here. And if you know this channel, you know it's kind of counterintuitive because I'm a fan of Tip Ryman. I think that he is a really good player. Third round for Tip Ryman, someone who had 19 catches last year. I think he had like 2 catches past 10 yards at the line of scrimmage. I know he's not going to be your primary target from the tight end position. That's going to be Trey McBride. I get that. If you drafted him to be purely a blocking tight end, which he is really good at, third round, I mean, I don't understand. You could have got someone like Tanner McLaughlin later on down the board who could have played the same exact position. I don't really understand. I'm just splitting hairs here at this point because I think that the draft was very good in terms of players that were drafted around their projected, draft. I don't really know what I'm trying to say here. Draft position, I guess I would say. But Ryman is someone who I thought was a real surprise in round 3 there. But the Cardinals had a ton of draft capital. So if you're going to reach on a player like that as your backup tight end, as your possibly inline tight end, blocking tight end, I guess it's okay. I just thought it was too rich for my blood there in the third round. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There are my top 10 reaches from the 2024 NFL Draft. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Let me know if there were any other picks that you thought were too rich for your blood. Go over to my other video, the top 10 steals from the 2024 NFL Draft. If you are interested, thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I see you in the next one.